How you guys doing? Welcome back. Today's lesson 28. So you bought a runner. Congratulations. You did the thing you wanted to do, if not better than what you wanted to do. You got a price target 10, 15%, and this bad boy's at 60 or 70. Hell yeah. So this lesson I want to give you some insight and some opinions on what you can and should do if you do get a runner. So let's get into it. The first main thing to note is that if you do have a massive runner, no matter what the outcome, if you do get more than your price target, you've already won. Now, you may have a hard time if you sell early and it goes up another 300, 400%. Yeah, it's going to kind of suck to think about, like, damn, I could have had more. You got what you intended on in the first place. You had good technicals, good fundamentals, good everything, good plan. You acted on it. Congratulations. And now I'm going to show you some tips on how you can probably hold better and more efficiently. So this is kind of hard to put into words. I got some good examples, about 4 or 5 from today's runners we can look at, but this will be hard to put into words because every single runner is different. Some are fundamentally drawn up and they just pop up super hard and then immediately come back down. Others pop off and then they kind of hesitate for a little bit, then they come down. Others pop off, come down, and then they pop off even more, and you would have thought, hey, 80% is great, but then you find out 8 months later it's gone up 4,000%, which has happened. The main thing we're going to note is that the main point we're going to talk about is you have to take profit eventually. I know it's going to be hard for some of you to sell a huge runner and be like, I want to get out. But again, you have to take profit eventually. If you never take profit, you're liable to come back down, and you're going to have a way harder time than selling too early, than selling late, and it comes down drastically, and you missed a bunch of profit because you want to be greedy. What's cool with most swing trades is that a lot of these runners have previous highs. They have previous price action over the last 10 years that you can use while it's going up and doing a lot of movements to zoom out and see where possible resistance are going to be. We'll do that today and check these things out pretty well. It'll be pretty good to look at. And we're going to show you how previous price action, historical data, does make a massive difference for these kinds of plays. When it comes to runners, I exclusively scale out. Now, that's what I do. You can have any kind of validation strategy that you would like. You can zoom in and use email lines. You can use resistances. I scale out. I find targets, I hit them, I scale out. If we dip back down, I just sell out there. There's no difference. It goes from $100 to $300. And let's say I want to sell at 200. I sell at half at 200. It keeps going. It comes back down to 200. I sell out the rest of it. That's fine. It would be the same exact outcome if I sold at 200. Again, giving yourself a little bit extra room to let it run up and kind of do its thing and develop is always smart. So I like to kind of scale out. 4 things we're going to talk about in particular scaling out is when we start ripping higher and having more power, we secure some profit. Secondly, how to establish new price targets as we do rip higher. 3, if we can establish why it started ripping, got sent to the moon. What did it? Was it technicals? Was it fundamentals? What did it? Let's research that while it's still going. And then 4, and most importantly, don't get hasty. You may want to sell out, you may want to hold. Give yourself 5-10 minutes to think about. Most runners run all day, they have a bunch of action. Give yourself some time to think about it. With that being said, let's get into today's lesson 28, runners. So with the examples we're going to have today, you're going to see how much more complicated this is than a normal price target. Yeah, when the stock goes to your price target and shows some weakness, you can just take your profit and go home and have a good old time. But when a stock goes from 0 to 60 real quick and goes from 2% gain to 50% gain, it gets real quick because you want to make sure you maximize your profit, maximize your time. Don't sell too early, but again, you want to make sure you secure profits where you can. So I have some examples for you. Let's check these out today and see what we're looking at. So here we have IPA, delicious. No, but this is one that you probably wouldn't have seen coming. Of course, you could have been like, well, it's a descending wedge. It very certainly is. I don't know how valid this would have been. Now, of course, you can see this consolidation is pretty crazy, and it pops off. First thing you're going to notice on the 4-hour chart, it's pretty worthless. I mean, honestly, when these things get ripping, it's really hard to tell what's going on the 4-hour chart. You can zoom in and see so much more clear action. Let's zoom in. So with this runner, watch this. It's not much going on here. Let's just zoom in the 1 minute, 1 day. With zooming in, we can see the volume was pretty trash, but look at this. This is pretty easy to read. We can even see on this chart, previous resistance is acting as a support. We can see this support over here now acting as a resistance. You have some pretty good price action in here. So if you do get a runner, trying to stay at the 4-hour chart, if that's where you chart from, is not going to be very useful. You got to zoom in and see some previous price action. One thing that I want to do here, let's zoom out and see if we can set supports and resistances. Let's see if it's following this on this time frame. So what we can do here is we can come back and find previous supports and resistances. This is obviously one, right? Support, resistance. This right here, support, resistance. This right here, support, resistance. And this right here in this area is a resistance. Off the bat, we can already see this got close, it died, this hit here, then wick came up, and now we're showing some life here, bouncing here. Let's zoom in and see if these supports and resistances actually line up with smaller action. As we can see, it lines up almost perfectly. So that being said, even your runners are going to have some technical analysis behind them. Properly charting them the first time for when they rip up can really show you some great insight. So with this being shown, with this being said, yeah, I'd modify just a little bit. Like I'd move this up just a little bit. Go there. Move this down just a little bit, right about there. And this is fine right here. I throw one more in here just to make sure. Probably right about here. Right, let this bad boy rip, do what you want to do. Actually, let's go there. That's good. Let this bad boy rip, make its move. Playing with 100% moves, it looks good to me. On the way up, could you have made trend lines? Sure, let's look. You can see clearly we had a nice run up just like this, and we can see when it did break down. Let's just use this one here. Our first major pullback. Look at this. On the way up, and again, this is day trading. This is more extremes, of course. On the way up, it had this nice uptrend. This does look like a swing, right? When you kind of zoom in, looks like a swing trade, doesn't it? And then, of course, it came up, it broke, and then what happened? Lower lows, boom, lower highs. Remember that lesson we talked about? The first sign of breakage is a trend line break and then a lower low and a lower high. We have that. So we can see our first lower high here, breaks down, lower low. We're now downtrending. So you could have taken your profit here. Could have taken it probably anywhere from, this area as it kind of comes down. Would have been good to go. But even now, if I missed the initial run, I can see now supports here. This right here is still a 20% move right here using old supports and resistances. So there's a lot of great valid information on this time frame. So for setting price targets, you could have easily used previous action. You could have easily used resistances and taken profit accordingly. It would have been really easy to do that. Let's look at some other examples real quick. So this is IGC. Again, was it possible to capture this? Yeah, I mean, that's a support, but it's not really, how would you have known this is about a 15% area? It would have been very hard to capture. But now it's taking off. Let's find some previous resistances. We have one clear one. Let's see, probably right about here in this area. One clear one right about here in this area. One right about, this is support, and then our top one probably close to here. Let's see if any of this action lines up well with what was going on before. And as we can see, look at this. It's almost perfect once again, isn't it? A lot of these moves on this initial run up right here follow this action almost to a T. So again, previous resistances, previous supports, even on run-ups, are extremely, extremely valid. We can even see over here, what's it doing? Bouncing off this support. Gorgeous. You can even zoom in. You could say, hey, look at this. Higher low, higher low, higher low. Make some trend lines just like this. You could probably easily trade off this channel back and forth, off the support. Easy 7% moves right here. Supports and resistances look great. And again, you have a nice run-up just like this. Okay, run up, bounce, 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 broke down, it came down, it started to die. So even on this massive run up, you can even see when it starts to come back down, technical analysis is still very much alive. We can see right here, this was a small resistance trend line, it broke it, bounced off it, now we're seeing higher lows as it goes higher. When it comes to trend lines up, I don't really see much of a great one, but just like that, a small triangle breaking out. We'll see what it does here. But again, this previous resistance acting as a support area is greatly so old resistances and old supports are even showing relevance on this time frame really, really well. So that's the first thing you should do. If you do have a runner, make sure you identify supports, resistances, trend lines, old stuff that would be a part here. It's very valuable to have that ready to go when it starts ripping up. So just like price action technical analysis, we have indicators. Let's turn those on and see what we see. It'd be pretty worthless to turn on indicators on the 180-day for this kind of play. I mean, we can. You're going to see most likely that they're all kind of janky. As you can see, they're pretty janky. The 10's actually doing pretty good here, but overall, they're pretty worthless. Let's zoom in and see what they show us. So let's do this one at a time. We have our EMA lines first, so let's turn on our EMA lines.